Hello everyone, welcome back. Today, I want to share with you a story that may change the way you think about success, love, and what it truly means to live a meaningful life. It's the story of a man named James, a man who once owned a $500,000 company, managed several of his father's enterprises, and was the pride of his family. He was that kind of person people pointed to and said, "He's going places." James had it all: wealth, prestige, education, and a reputation many could only dream of. After years abroad, he returned home a polished, confident businessman ready to lead. On paper, his life was perfect. But behind the confident smile and tailored suits was a man drowning in fatigue, emotionally hollow, despite the power he wielded. He often sat alone at night in his spacious apartment, the glow of the city lights reflecting off the glass. Those lights once symbolized victory. Now, they mocked him, reminders of how far he had strayed from peace. His days were filled with board meetings and contracts, his nights with silence and loneliness. Success had given him everything, except meaning. "Is this all there is?" he often whispered to himself. A mountain of achievements and an empty heart? That question haunted him. Until one day, fate answered in the most unexpected way. Her name was Too Deep, a woman from the countryside. She was poor, simple, yet radiated a quiet strength and kindness that struck him like a soft breeze on a hot day. They met through a charity program where James's company sponsored rural farming initiatives. She wasn't just another face in the crowd. There was something about her sincerity that unsettled the walls he'd built around himself. Too Deep was hardworking, gentle, and spoke little, but every word carried weight. Her laughter came rarely, but when it did, it was pure and unguarded. Over time, what began as casual encounters turned into meaningful conversations. And from those conversations grew a connection neither expected. James found himself drawn not to her beauty, but to her honesty, to the way she looked at the world not as something to conquer, but to cherish. And so, when the moment came for him to choose between the life he had built and the love he had found, James did something few people would dare: he chose love. James walked away. He left behind the $500,000 company, the luxury apartment, the lavish dinners, and the adoring crowd. In exchange, he moved to a small countryside village with Too Deep, trading suits for work clothes and deadlines for seasons. Each morning, he rose before dawn. Together, they planted rice, corn, and potatoes under the pale light of the early sun. His hands blistered, his clothes soaked in sweat, but his spirit, for the first time, felt free. He once managed men and money, now he nurtured soil and seeds, and strangely, it felt right. I used to think peace was something I had to earn, James once told Too Deep. But maybe peace is just learning to stop running. Their small home, made of wood and surrounded by golden fields, became a sanctuary, not of wealth, but of warmth. One afternoon, as James and Too Deep were returning from the fields, they met a little girl named Nhi. She was barely 6, her hair messy, her eyes bright with curiosity. Her grandmother, frail and overworked, explained that Nhi's parents had abandoned her long ago. When the old woman, coughing between words, asked them to look after the child while she recovered, something in James shifted. He knelt down and met Nhi's eyes so innocent, so unguarded, they pierced straight into his heart. From that day, Nhi became the light of their small household. Her laughter danced through the walls, her tiny footsteps echoing across the dirt floor like music. Meals became joyous gatherings. The once quiet evenings now sparkled with her stories and giggles. One day, when Nhi's grandmother came to visit and saw her granddaughter so happy, she smiled through her tears. "Seeing her like this makes me feel at peace," the old woman said, and when it was time for her to leave, Nhi held Too Deep's hand tightly and whispered, "I want to stay here with you, Auntie Too Deep, because you feel like my mom." Too Deep's eyes filled with tears. James turned away, smiling softly. In that fragile moment, he realized, happiness wasn't something to chase. It was something to build, one small act of love at a time. Time passed. Their life, though simple, blossomed with purpose. James and Too Deep decided to start something of their own, a small agricultural company. Not to grow rich, but to grow meaning. They wanted to sell clean, honest produce, vegetables cultivated by their own hands, untainted by greed or shortcuts. Their starting capital was modest, just a few million dong for seeds and rent. But to them, it was the seed of a dream. One evening, as they planned by candlelight, Too Deep looked up and said softly, "I want to change myself, to be useful, to be worthy of you and our family." James smiled and took her hand. "You've been worthy all along," he said. It wasn't flattery, it was truth. James's mother, still living in the city, worried. She urged him to reconnect with his father's powerful agricultural company. "It'll be easier," she said. "You don't need to struggle like this," but James refused. "Mom," he said gently, "I don't want to depend on anyone anymore. I want to build everything from scratch, with Too Deep, with Nhi." He had lost his fortune once, but found something far greater. He wasn't about to let comfort steal that away. One quiet afternoon, James stood on the porch, the golden rice fields stretching endlessly before him. The wind brushed through his hair as he whispered to himself, "Between love and career, I chose love." I only hope this choice was right. From afar, he could see Too Deep and little Nhi walking home, their laughter floating through the fading sunlight. And for a brief, perfect moment, he smiled. Maybe he had finally found what he'd been searching for all along, peace and the true meaning of happiness. But peace, as life often reminds us, is fragile. One afternoon, an old face appeared. Hung, his former business associate. He looked at James with a smirk that carried both curiosity and disdain. "You used to be such a big boss," Hung sneered. "What happened? Got kicked out?" James didn't flinch. He simply smiled faintly. "The company is no longer my concern," he said quietly. "I have a different life now." But as Hung walked away, his words lingered like a shadow. The encounter stirred something deep inside James, not regret exactly, but the faint echo of the man he once was. Could he truly escape his past? Could he protect his newfound peace when the world that once consumed him came knocking again? Life in the countryside continued, but a new tension hummed beneath the surface. The small agricultural venture faced obstacles: unpredictable weather, dishonest suppliers, financial pressure. Each challenge tested James and Too Deep's resolve. Yet through every hardship, they held each other. Because in that holding, they remembered why they had started, not for money, but for love, for family, and for the promise of something real. The storms were coming, but perhaps, this time, James was ready to face them, not as a man chasing success, but as one who had finally understood peace. And so, the story pauses here, at the threshold between past and future, between love and ambition. Can James protect his peace when the old world returns? Can the small company he and Too Deep built survive the storms ahead? The answers lie in the next chapter: the CEO who gave up a $500,000 company, the return of the past. If you, too, believe that happiness isn't found in wealth, but in love, kindness, and peace, leave a red heart for James, Too Deep, and little Nhi. Because sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is to walk away from everything and start again.